All right, everyone. This is Mayor John Morrissey. This is the City of St. Mary's, Georgia, June 1st, 2020 City Council meeting. And I'd like to welcome everyone. And I would advise all that we will have a granting audience to the public session at the end of the council business sessions. And due to the cyber security recommendations that have come down to us, we have a protocol for call-in that's been set. And I think we have a list of people that would like to speak, or a person that would like to speak. So thank you all for that. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. And the invocation is from Council Member Dave Riley. Dave?
Thank you. Can you all hear me good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please bow your head. Dear God, thank you for our beautiful city of St. Mary's and for the opportunity to come together virtually to conduct the city's business during this devastating and debilitating pandemic. We come to you, Heavenly Father, and ask your guidance in all matters. We especially ask that you provide the wisdom and patience to our local, state, and national leaders such that they can provide the type of leadership that allows us to fully recover from the deleterious impact of the COVID-19 virus. And dear God, we especially ask that you watch over and be the light for our first responders, medical professionals, city staff, and others that are providing extra services necessary to combat this pandemic while continuing to provide the day-to-day services our citizens need and expect. And dear God, as we pray to you today, we especially ask that you guide us, your servants, in recognizing that what happened in Brunswick and Minneapolis is a blight on our society, as is the violent demonstrations that were perpetrated on our cities. We can do better and must as leaders to encourage the open and civil debate that helps us understand and take actions to fix the issues. We pray for all those that have suffered and will suffer as a result of those actions that have harmed them. And God, we do want to thank you for the guidance you provided all of those that led America back into the forefront of space exploration. Patience, persistence, and perseverance of all the engineers, scientists, and visionaries has been nothing short of remarkable. And Musk Dragon linking up to the International Space Station has been a good event in these troubled times. And in closing, we ask you guys to provide us your strength and wisdom so that we can do our very best collectively as council for the city of St. Mary's. We ask this in your name, Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Riley. Very, very appropriate. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Rassi? Mr. Rassi?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Would you please say the Pledge of Allegiance for us?
I'd be honored. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir.
Could you please run the roll call? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
I'm here.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Present.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Present.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Present.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Present.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Present.
Mayor Morrissey.
Here. Thank you,
Sir, we
ma'am.
have a quorum.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yes. So, Council, we have one set of minutes from May 18th, 2020, regular City Council meeting minutes. And I need a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved, Riley.
Okay, and I need a second from someone.
Second.
Second.
All right, Ms. Williams? Okay. So, Madam Clerk and Council, as we've done in the past, we'll just go down the dais for approvals, yea or nay. Excuse me, Mr. Jones?
Yay.
Mr. Goodman?
Yay.
And Mr. Gant?
Yay.
Mr. Riley?
Yay.
And Mr. Rassi?
Yay.
And Ms. Williams?
Yay.
Okay, Madam Clerk, will you please record that as unanimous? Thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much, Council. All right, now, everyone, we move on to presentations, and we do have a report of authorities, boards, and commissions tonight, and our Finance Director, Jennifer Brown, should be on the phone with us. Ms. Brown?
Good afternoon. You have before you the 10th month fiscal year 2020 financial reports. Just want to know if anyone had any questions regarding it.
Okay. Well, I guess my first observation is, do you see anything in there in April, given the COVID impact, that either was concerning or positive? Any kind of observations you'd like to make about this report?
Well, we've been monitoring the lost and splost, and at this time we haven't seen a dip in it yet. You know, we've been trying to watch it very closely as that come in. Of course, April's is received in May, and those I sent out to you already, showing that we were pretty much on par for what we received last year. One note that we have seen is the motor vehicle. We have seen a decline in that particular area, but everything else so far has kind of stayed on par.
Okay. All right. So, Council, do you have any questions for Mrs. Brown? Okay. Well, thank you very much, and I know we'll be hearing from you as we monitor the next few months in particular closely. Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Council? All right, if we can, just as an advice to anyone that is on the call, and that if you could either minimize the background noise or go to mute if you need to. Thank you. Council, I'd like to set the consent agenda. And the first item, since there's no old business, is the new business is Wellington Way Apartments. I think we need to speak about that.
Yes.
A letter of support for Georgia Film Tax Credit to the Georgia Legislature.
Consent.
Would you? Okay, I think we may have Ms. Mods on the line, or Mr. Horton can speak to it if you want, or we can consent.
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 Okay. 2020 general election ordinance.
Consent.
Consent.
Okay. The Georgia Municipal Association officers election, I believe we have to do a vote on that, so that remains in the agenda. The Georgia Municipal Association 2020 Annual Convention delegate, I think we have to make a decision on that also. So based on that, can I have a motion to identify the consent agenda as new business item B and new business item C?
Make a motion to consent agenda is read. Riley?
Mr. Riley, I have a motion for Mr. Riley. Could I have a second, please?
Second, Mr. Rassi.
Mr. Rassi is the second. Okay, going down the roster, Mr. Jones?
Yay.
Mr. Goodman,
Yay.
Mr. Gant,
Yay.
Mr. Riley,
Yay.
Mr. Rassi,
Yay.
Mr. Rassi.
Yay.
Okay, and
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yay.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you mark the consent agenda as unanimous? Thank you. Now, Council,
Yes,
can I
sir.
have a motion for approval of the agenda as set?
Move we approve the agenda as set, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Williams, and I have a second.
Second, Mayor.
All right, Mr. Jones, thank you. Going down the roster, Mr. Jones, yea or nay?
Yay.
Mr. Goodman?
Yay.
Okay, and Mr. Gant?
Yay.
And Mr. Riley?
Yay.
Mr. Rassi?
Yay.
And Ms. Williams?
Yay.
All right. Madam Clerk, would you mark the approval of the agenda as unanimous? Thank you very much.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, and we are going to move down to our new business item. And the first item under new business, item A, is Wellington Way Apartments Development Request for Utilities, City Water Sewer Services. So Mr. Horton, there's been quite a bit going on about this particular line item. Would you frame all of this for us and some of your findings so that we can lead off with all the information that's available?
Mr. Mayor, if you allow me the opportunity to let Mr. Hughes speak to that subject matter, he has been dealing with it for quite some time, and he's our expert on it. So I'm going to turn it over to him. So go ahead, sir.
Okay, and hopefully we can get that phone muted, please. All right. Thank you. All right. Mr. Hughes, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's good to be here. Good to be home. Just as a brief overview, this is a request from the Mara Group. They are looking at developing 72 apartment units on a property on Winding Road. As part of their financing package, they're planning on using funds from DCA, the Department of Community Affairs, for their Georgia Housing Tax Credit Program. And this is a very competitive program that allows them to receive the tax credits in order to make this project happen. And one of the components that they're really sought after looking at is some points for being in an area where there was not an approved project in the past 15 years. And so this would qualify as such because it would be in the county's jurisdiction at this point in time, at the time of their application. So they would be doing that in order to be competitive in order to bring this project to fruition. As part of that, they need to secure some of the entitlements, such as the sewer and water services that are being provided to the site. So they approach the city about providing those services. And so that's why we decided as Robbie, myself, and Bobby to bring it to you all for possible discussion and decision about that. They've been working with us to figure out some of the things like fire protection, since we would be the first fire department to be on scene in pretty much any instance. They've been working with us on that. There was some discussion about, the difference between annexing and not. To be competitive for this program, they've asked to not be annexed at this time. and to not make it a condition of their approval to connect to water and sewer. I'll say so far much as that because on the flip side of that, there is the possibility or the opportunity to pursue a island annexation in this instance, such that down the road, even 6 months down the road, or as soon as this project really gets off the ground, to bring it into the city of St. Mary's so that they don't jeopardize their funding in order to bring this project to fruition. But then we would be able to annex this property into the city without the possibility of remonstration or objection, because Georgia code specifically says that this is something that's in the sole discretion of the city to do. And so we would be able to pursue it at that point.
Okay. Mr. Horton, I think you have worked with our legal counsel, Mr. Blackerby, and, you know, this is my opinion, and counsel will weigh in also, but in order for this organization to, the way we think we understand it, in order for this organization to apply and hopefully win, and there's no guarantee they will win, but if they win the credits and they're able to construct, I think what I would like staff and you, Mr. Horton, to do is find out what is the earliest possible action time that we can start the annexation. And I would also like to have annexation explored not only for the parcel, but for the entire county parcel that surrounds it, so that we close up that piece of property completely. So you'll have to come back with a recommendation. I understand that they do not want any encumbrance on their application in any way, but it does look like we can be separate and distinct from anything that they're doing just by our very actions. So I'd like to propose that we, or not propose, but I recommend that we start that action as soon as possible, and that we map out the plan of how do we do that to make sure that this gets annexed properly, not only the property, and if we can, we take the entire larger scale piece and incorporate that also. Do you want to speak to that, Mr. Horton?
No, sir. That was kind of the direction that we were thinking and looking at. We don't want to do anything to jeopardize their possibility of being able to build, and don't want to mess with their funding source. But being able to sit down and have that conversation with them as to when that can happen, I think we can certainly do.
Now, I think I do understand that based on the reviews done by Mr. Blackerby, who's on the phone, that it appears that this action on the part of the city is eminently legal and very difficult to contest. Did you want to speak to that, Mr. Blackerby?
That's accurate. As far as the actual supplying of water and sewer services, your charter does expressly allow that to be done outside the city limits. And as far as the annexation process is concerned, it's fairly straightforward if it's and what's called an unincorporated island, meaning a piece of property that's totally surrounded by the city. And that's my understanding, is that this property is part of a sort of triangular shaped parcel that is totally surrounded by the city. And so there's a special process for annexing those types of properties. And it is probably the easiest annexation process you could have. And there should not be any grounds for any opposition to it.
Okay. All right. So let me open this up to the council for any questions to Mr. Horton or Mr. Blackerby or whomever.
Mr. Mayor, this is Riley, and I fully endorse this, and everyone knows the need to get customers for the waste treatment facility and the water, so that we can try to drive towards the day that that area is self-sustaining and we don't have to rely on spots to pay part of the bill for that. But however, I want to ask just a couple of questions of both Mr. Blackby and that is with respect to the DCA tax credits. Have we reviewed that and ensured ourselves that there won't be further restrictions down the road with respect to annexing that property and as soon as they start construction? Will that negate the tax credits that we're going after, and will that then harm Mr. Meredith in his bid to get apartments built on his property by the Morrow Group? Over.
This is Stephen. I have not been given those documents to review, so I can't weigh in on whether there is a possibility for him of losing the DCA funding if there's a subsequent annexation. I would be reluctant to weigh in and give them legal advice on the potential impacts under their contract documents and the DCA documents. I would strongly advise them to get legal counsel to make sure that that's not a concern, and we can work with them to try to alleviate any concern about that. But I have not been given their DCA documents to see if there is any possibility of that happening.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilman Riley.
Mr. Horton, have you taken a look at the DCA document to assure ourselves that we're on solid footing here?
Mr. Riley, Mr. Hughes has, and he'll respond to that. Go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah, Councilman Riley, I talked to DCA, to their head of the Housing Finance Department, or that group, this afternoon, and we talked about that possibility and what what, if any, ramifications it would hold for the developer. Because it would be something that was not voluntary, it was something that they did not seek on their own, it would not jeopardize their funding, because it's a thing that has happened outside of their control. So they would be in the clear based on my conversation with DCA.
Very much, and I'm assuming more. I guess I'm getting a lot of feedback. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
The second part of the question is that I'm assuming that the builders and Mr. Morrow know of our intentions, at least in passing, and are not objecting to what our intentions are. Is that a fair assumption?
Crap is going on.
Yes, Council Member. That was something that we've discussed a couple of times, and they're willing to do what's necessary in that regard, and are open to that annexation and ensuring that they can get this project off the ground.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hughes. Thank you for your diligent research in this effort. It's the first time you've been grilled by council, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Give her some of those things so she can get some signatures out of the department.
All right. All right. There's multiple conversations going on, and it may actually be with staff. So if you could be, please, everybody mute your phones accordingly. One of the other, Mr. Riley, and Mr. Horton in particular, is acutely aware of the one of the benefits that comes from this also is that it adds a population density requirement that we need to be able to resubmit our study requests and institute a new study request once the Colerain Road bypass is complete and the interchange with Winding Road is in full use. And one of the things that GDOT has told us that we need to make sure we include in the request is not only the existing, but the anticipated volume load that may be on that road. And this will do nothing but help our cause in trying to get traffic light at Winding Road and Colerain.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir, I was aware of that, and I got to tell you that that's a really good thing and should help us immensely in getting that light. So again, that's another thing why I favor this proposal. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. All right, is there someone else that'd like to speak?
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to ask
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Hughes. I wanted to ask Mr. Hughes, what is the nature of this apartment complex? What do you know about what sort of apartments they'll be?
Absolutely, Councilmember. So it's 72 units spread across the spectrum of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom housing. Because there is a tax credit component to it, there are some opportunities for lower income individuals to have residences. So this is actually a very similar kind of undertaking as to what Sugar Mill, the apartments over there at Colerain and St. Mary's Road in that area. It's the same housing program that would be used in this instance. So you end up with a high quality product that meets our codes and is properly sprinkled for fire protection. And they're under a lot of scrutiny by DCA to ensure that it stays that way as part of their compliance process. So you end up with a very nice, entry-level home for individuals.
Is it the Brant Creek complex that you're talking about?
It's real similar to that, Miss Williams.
I mean, when he referred to the one that's in Sugar Mill and Colerain, right? Or Sugar Mill
Yes, ma'am.
and St. Mary's Road.
It's the it's not the ones. It's not the ones right there beside the old mom and pops. It's the next one. It's similar to those.
Right.
And the name I can't remember because you asked me.
Park Place is the first set.
Park Place. There you go. Park Place.
Boardwalk.
Complex.
Boardwalk.
Boardwalk's on the left as you go down that Colerain Road. But the one at the very end, after you pass the left entrance to go to the elementary school, on the right is, I thought it was Brant Creek, but I don't know what it is right now.
Brant Creek is on Highway 40.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Whatever the name of that, I've got the right apartment complex in mind, though, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
The multicolored ones.
Right. But thank you.
All right, who's next?
This is Jim Gant. I certainly support this development, providing the water sewer to help them out to get loan credits. But I certainly want to make sure that we do not lose the ball anywhere to annex that property. We don't need another area where we're providing services and not getting the return we need to pay for those services, like fire and police and public works, whatever. We've got too many of these islands out in Point Peter and what have you. So let's not lose track. We're going to annex them at the right time but let's not wait too long before they're built and already occupied before we annex them.
Okay. Who's next? Thank you, Jim. All right. Mr. Horton and Council, I have a thought, and Mr. Blackerby, you may need to weigh in here. So we have line item A. I think we should have a motion relative to that. Mr. Blackerby, would it be appropriate to have a separate motion relative to annexation, or can we task the city manager to start the annexation investigation and protocol?
I think you
I
need
think
to
it would be
just
better.
task staff is what I think needs to happen, sir.
This is Stephen. I agree with that.
Okay, just tasking now. Do we have to vote on the tasking? You got to help me remember, or can I just say that based on council discussion, we're instructing city manager or tasking him to start the process?
That is my understanding, sir.
Well, okay, we can just instruct it. Okay, good. All right, so council, were there any other questions or comments? All right, if not, could I have a motion relative to this item A, Wellington Way apartment development?
Mr. Mayor, Riley, I make a motion that we approve moving forward with the Wellington Way apartments.
All right, can I have a second?
Second, Alan Rassy.
All right, going down the dais, Mr. Jones, yay or nay?
Yay.
Mr. Goodman?
Nay.
Okay. Mr. Gant?
Yay.
Mr. Riley?
Yay.
Mr. Rassy?
Yay.
And Ms. Williams?
Yay.
All right. Madam Clerk, would you please indicate the vote as 5 yays and 1 nay?
Yes, sir.
So that item A passes 5-1. Okay. Thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much. Council, I think we should say to our new neighbors, welcome. We wish you well with your process, and we hope that you're successful. Thank you. All right. The next item is item D, Georgia Municipal Association District 12 Officers Election, tab E. And so what you have is a ballot for officer nominees for 2020 through 2021 for the GMA, District 12. And the list is up there, and one of them is our neighbor, Hugh Bubba Hodge from Darien. I know the mayor. Would you like to discuss this in any way, or if we're ready, we can make a vote? Okay. Thank you for those folks that are willing to serve. We appreciate it. So could I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we vote for the office that have been nominated for GMA District 12.
Okay. All right. How about a second?
Second, Riley.
I'll second.
All right. Thank you. All right. Going down the roster, yay or nay, Mr. Jones?
Yay.
Mr. Goodman?
Yay.
Mr. Gant?
Yay.
Mr. Riley?
Yay.
Mr. Rassy?
Yay.
And Ms. Williams?
Yay.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please mark that as unanimous, and will you contact the GMA District 12 with the information for that vote? Thank you very much. And now the GMA annual convention was obviously canceled. There are some virtual meetings that are going to occur, and there's one on July 2nd, 2020. Now, if you remember, I believe we selected someone when the physical meetings were going to occur, and I'm trying to remember if that was, I think that was Mr. Goodman. Is that correct?
We haven't voted this year. So. Each year around this time we vote for who will actually do it for the year.
Oh, I thought we had already done it.
No, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was going to be who was going to carry the flag, etc. All right, my apologies, Jim. Please. No. All right. So what we have is we need someone to be a voting delegate at the annual business meeting, which will be held July 2nd, 2020. And would someone like to do that from council?
Mr. Mayor, I nominate Mr. Jim Goodman.
Okay.
Riley, I second.
Yes.
This is Goodman. I respectfully decline the nomination. I have some upcoming appointments, and I don't want to put myself out there and not be dependable. But thank you for the nod, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
All right. And Mr. Goodman, please understand my first comment was sincere. I thought we had done that and you were involved. So I hope you understand.
Not a problem. I had to think about it myself, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, good, because then I'm not alone. I appreciate that. All right, so could we have another nomination, or someone would like to do that?
Mr. Mayor, this is Mr.
Yes, sir.
Ramsey. I'd be happy to do that. Be honored to do that.
Yes, sir. All right. Okay. Any discussion on that? Yeah. Other than our gratitude for that, thank you very much. And if something occurs that creates a problem for you, you let me know, and we'll work something out, Mr. Rassi. Okay.
Okay.
Seriously.
I think it would be good for the mayor or for everyone to vote on it.
Do we need a vote?
Yes, ma'am. Could we have a motion? Yeah, a motion to.
I move that we nominate Mr. Rassi to be our voting delegate on July 2nd.
Thank you. Okay, I think I heard Mr. Jones second. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, good. All right, going down the roster, yay or nay, Mr. Jones?
Yay.
Okay, Mr. Goodman?
Oh, yes, thank you.
I can see the smile from here, Jim. Okay, Mr. Gann?
Thank you, Alan. Yay.
Mr. Rassi?
I believe you need to go Mr. Riley.
Excuse me, Mr. Riley. Excuse me, Dave.
No problem. Yay, and thanks, Alan.
Okay. Now, Mr. Rassi, would you like to vote or abstain?
Abstain.
Okay. And Ms. Williams?
Yay.
All right. Madam Clerk, we have 5 yays and 1 abstention, recognizing Mr. Rassi as our virtual delegate to the GMA convention for July 2nd, 2020 business meeting. Thank you very much,
yes,
Mr. Rassi. And again, any conditions that create a hardship, you let me know, and I will be the backup support if it's needed. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
One thing we do need to do now is officially, Mr. Horton, we would like to task the staff and your office and yourself with investigating and planning out the annexation of the Wellington Apartments properties and the property that surrounds it to determine what is the best path forward and what a timeline will be and all of the requirements that go along with that. And maybe report back in when it's appropriate, but no later than first meeting in August.
Yes, sir.
What the process will be. Is that acceptable, Council?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So, Mr. Horton, we have the report of the city manager.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. I normally like to try and make it short and sweet, especially when we're on these phone calls. But there's a little bit here more to cover than normal. So I wanted to start off. Our old VACCon truck, we've got two, but we lost an engine in it, and Public Works is working to replace that engine as we speak. But that has us down, but we're okay because it was our backup. The police department has hired.
I'm sorry for the interruption, but you know, we have a lot of aged equipment, and we're working on updating and upgrading, etc. But do you have any idea how old that equipment is, the unit itself?
I want to say it's probably 15, 16 years old.
Okay. All right. So it's gotten a
now that's
a lot
off
of
the top of my head. I remember when it was purchased, but I remember it being purchased, but I don't remember the date on that.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Our police department has hired two new. Go ahead, Mr. Riley.
Yeah, I think that vacuum truck, we approved a pretty extensive overhaul about three years ago or so. It's in the back of my memory. So it's
well, I think that was on the vacuum side of it all, Mr. Riley. That was the actual. I believe that was on the vacuum side of it all. Right. It was what that rebuild was. So this is the engine of the truck itself.
Yeah. No, I understand that, but I think the vacuum part is probably the expensive part of that truck, and we certainly got a pretty good system.
Yes,
there. That's the reason for the comment. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Our police department has recently hired two new officers that began about middle of last week. Greg Cruz and Nathaniel Siebert. I may not be saying it correctly, but they are on the job. But they're going through training and trying to get situated and things of that nature. Also, Chief Wilkie has brought in a college intern that you'll have the opportunity to meet at our next in-person meeting, who's going to be with us until the last part of July, I believe. But he's doing his intern for his college program here with us. I don't have his name handy, and I apologize for that. Moving on, the Hawk signal on Spur 40 at St. Mary's Middle School has been installed, but still has to be tested to make sure it works correctly and meets all the guidelines and things of that nature. But if you're wondering what those things are hanging over the road with the black bags on them, that's the Hawk signal. This is a result of several years of going to Atlanta for the Atlanta fly-in and meeting with DOT and having several meetings with DOT expressing our concern with the danger that we have currently in our city. So we're really excited about that. DOT is also installing the high mast lighting at Exit 1, which was also another one of the hot topics that we carried to Atlanta. and if it isn't installed, it's being installed. Also, in regards to Exit 1, we recently had a heavy rainstorm at Exit 1, and the traffic light, or traffic signal box, the controlling box, was actually flooded out. It has been repaired, and it was determined that we probably need to raise that control box up. Mr. Marr is working with DOT to get that taken care of. We have also received word from TDS that they'll be starting to fix the portions of Douglas Drive project. If you'll remember, that was where they had some equipment in the wrong spot, and we've been working back into, and they're finally moving. So that's supposed to start sometime this week, and as soon as they're done, Mr. Marr has been in contact with our contractor, and they should be getting in there a day or two after completion to wrap up our side of it. I've had a lot of questions concerning, and I know y'all have as well, concerning the kayak launch. The repairs have been done, and Public Works was checking late this afternoon to see if it was correct and everything was good, and if so, it should have opened up today or it will open up tomorrow. If there is a problem, I'll send out an email to let everybody know. But if you don't hear from me, it's good news, and we're back up running again. The St. Mary's Library started up again with a soft opening. It's where you may place your holds or requests for materials using our online Pines card catalog, or call the library and staff member will assist you with your request. When your items are ready, they'll schedule a time for pickup. As you arrive in front of the library, you don't even get out of your car. A staff member will bring the bag material out and places it in your trunk or in your back seat of your vehicle. All returns must be made by the patron to the outside drop box, and then staff will take care of the materials from there, following strict guidelines that have been put out through the Board of Regents, National Park Service, CDC, and other organizations for handling those kinds of properties. Let's see, Aquatic Center will reopen after June 12th. Depending on drug screens and physicals, the park capacity will be limited to 115 guests at this time. The city is looking at blocking times for swimming. There are some strict guidelines. That 115 is half what its normal occupant load, and they are meeting all the CDC guidelines, as well as the insurance commissioner and the Department of Health. Shrimp 2, the work around City Hall is moving well. If you haven't been by in a while, please drive by. Problem here the last 2 weeks has been the afternoon rains have been catching them, but they are moving, and we're hoping that to be completed by the end of June. For informational purposes, the governor has extended his executive order. The summary can be found on our Facebook page, St. Mary's Facebook page, and can also be found on our web page. Staff is requesting a workshop with the senior center. Let me back up. A workshop concerning the senior center for council and for the hospital authority board, so we can have discussions to see where we're going for the future for the senior center and what direction we need to go. We have a lot of questions that we would like to have answered, and we being staff, and me especially, and so we'll be putting that out probably in one of the next 2 or 3 meetings. So that's just FYI. Other than that, sir, that concludes my my report, unless you have a question. Any of you have a question? I'm sorry.
All right. Yes, Council, if you got questions for Ms. Thornton? Okay, one thing, Mr. Horton, you brought up the senior center. I know there's a lot of folks that, if they're not listening, but you know, they may dial in later and look at the or listen to the meeting. Can you give the public our position right now on the senior center and opening? I think we've shared some of that, but maybe just as a recap while we've got everybody here.
Let me just do a quick synopsis of everything that's gone on for the last, well, since COVID started. We were in normal operations when COVID started, and our older citizens were identified as the at-risk group. We immediately closed operations and began reaching out to the local food banks in the area. All the numbers that we had at the time, began reaching out to those organizations to find out who was there, who was available, what was going on. And for the first week, we got absolutely no responses, weren't able to get with anyone. So from there, we rolled into kind of a delivery type service. We had been in contact with the state government. They had put us under state of emergency, I apologize. And with that comes anything that you have to do outside of norm. It opens up for reimbursement. So we backed off, we looked at it, we had conversations with the state, and especially because the president's directive and the governor's directive of taking care of our critical seniors, that critical at-risk group, of taking care of them, continue taking care of them, that would make us eligible for reimbursement for anything above the norm of our food program. So we averaged somewhere between 45 and 50 meals a day. So we said, okay, everything from 50 meals on is above and beyond. So we continued with the same guidelines of having to live in St. Mary's, having to be a member or an active member in the facility, the packaging, the fuel, the deliverer's time, everything that concerned with getting those meals to our citizens has been included and is being sent to the state for reimbursement. That also being said, the CARES Act recently we're hearing is coming down finally for local governments. We've had conversations directly with those organizations that are behind that, and we're hearing that probably that whole meal process, all of it, is going to be covered or is eligible for being covered under the CARES Act. So that's two opportunities to have those meals covered. That brings me in. That was the rationale behind it. That was the reason we went the way we did with the meals. Those decisions were made by me. I consulted with senior staff, and that was the direction we went. And that's why we went. That leading on, we've been able to maintain that program. We're looking at doing some virtual activities online because some of our seniors have the technical savvy to be able to do it. We're going to have some videos made for exercise, painting, things of that nature. Miss Donna is working very, very hard at trying to get something out there to them. But effective the 12th of this month, the senior meals stop. We're hearing that the reimbursement's not there anymore, and we just can't continue to support it at this time. So the senior meals stop, but we're still going to try and have contact with the seniors. We've gotten that information out to everyone we deliver to. So they've been made aware of it. And now is a good time to look at what we want to do with our senior program, where we want to go, and how we want it to look. We're going to still keep contact with our seniors with a kind of Are You OK program, not a CAN program, but just us calling our seniors and checking on them to see if there's anything that they need or anything we can do to possibly assist them to continue taking care of them as much as possible. So that's kind of where we're at with the program at this point in time, and that's the reason we're requesting to have that workshop.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Horton, one of the things that I was after in the question was, I know we're really having some deliberations about opening of the senior center. So I think I hear that you want to have that conversation between the council and the hospital authority and the staff. But
well,
I mean, is that?
I apologize if I misunderstood the question there, sir.
No, it was a larger scope the way you brought it in. I think I appreciate what you did to bring everybody up to speed. But
well, to regards to opening the senior center, and we understand that's something seniors are they're more hungry for a lot of times more than just food. Yeah, they're hungry for that socialization with people their own age that are going through the same trials and tribulations that they do on a day-to-day basis. It's hard for younger people to relate to it, so they lean on one another just like we do. So that is just as important. We understand that. However, with the current situation and not understanding how this thing is going to play out, they are the at-risk group. It's going to be several months before we're able to open up this center. We're looking, really kind of trying to evaluate it all through the summer, but that October, November timeframe is really what we're speculating on right now, just from what we're hearing coming down from the federal government and from our state Department of Health. So these aren't fly-by-your-seat responses. We're talking to folks, asking folks, and really trying to weigh it out, because we certainly don't want anything happening to our prized possessions, being our older citizens.
Okay. All right. So, well, thank you, Mr. Horton. And so, council, questions for Mr. Horton?
I think he's nailed it this, Dave, and I think we do need to have the work session. I support that, and I thank Robbie and especially Donna and Candace, who have just done a terrific job under some real trying circumstances. You couldn't be more dead on. Thanks.
This is Councilmember Rassi.
Yes, sir.
This is Councilmember Rassi. I would like to echo what Mr. Riley said, and Robbie and Candace and Don have done an extraordinary job through this adverse time, and I'm more than eager to have a work session with the council and the staff to discuss this, as well as with the hospital authority, so we can all get on the same page and strive for doing what we can down the road to benefit the seniors the best we can. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else? Okay. At this point in time, we have a citizen, Mr. Tom Canning. Mr. Canning, are you on the line?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right. So this is granting audience to the public. Mr. Canning, I think if you need your name and address, and if you want to speak to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Tom Canning, St. Mary's, Georgia, 410 Point Peter Place. My comment has to do with what you've now approved going forward with the Wellington Way apartment water and sewer hookup. A lot of comments were shared, a lot of ambitious tasks and goals were established during your discussion. I don't want to bury the lead, and I'll come back to this in a moment. But one of the facts that I think you based your decision on today was the statement that this particular property is surrounded by St. Mary's own property. Now, we all know that the county tax map isn't always 100% current, but as it stands today, that piece of property that they're going to build these 72 apartments on is bordered by Kingsland unincorporated property, St. Mary's unincorporated property, and in turn, St. Mary's property. So if there is a requirement, which I believe it is, that the property can be incorporated without question if it's a true island surrounded by city property, then I think that's not true. That's not the current condition. So I ask you, I don't need to debate it right now. I mean, I'm looking at the map. I ask you to look at that very hard to make sure that your expectations that there'll be no pushback and no resistance to incorporate that property is true. Now, I'll come back to that if I need be. The financial impact of incorporating that property, I think, should be visible to the developer, once again, just to eliminate any pushback from them later on. Obviously, there's a tax base difference, and in addition, ultimately, we're going to be having a stormwater management fee, and both of those items would be substantial dollar amounts for that property owner to consider. So I'm just dropping that as a data point to be included in the conversation. I don't think that we should be hiding any information, because it will not be in our best interest later on when and hopefully we're not going to surprise the property owner. I question, without knowing any details, but if ultimately this property is going to fall under the city of St. Mary's, and in turn, expectation is that it'll occur before the complex is completed or at least filled, I question whether or not there's any differences in building codes or any other requirements between what the county will impose and what the city requires. We certainly don't want to inherit something that falls short of city code if we can all avoid it. I'm assuming that there's whatever cost is involved in the water and sewer infrastructure installation would be no different whether it's city or unincorporated property. Obviously, that's something that needs to be factored into the discussion. I just want to get back real quick to the property. I know we were incorporated years ago without option, but the justification for that was that we were directly surrounded by city property. Across the street from me, out in Point Peter, we have a mixture of city properties and unincorporated areas that resist incorporation because they're not completely surrounded. So I'll leave it with that. I'm concerned that you've moved forward with a decision to permit the water and sewer hookup without some of these details worked out. I was hoping that you were going to send it back to the Planning Commission and have them work out the details so there'd be no unanswered questions when you made your decision. I think I've covered all my points. If anyone has any questions or comments.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Madam Clerk, can you review the calendar for us, please? Oh, excuse me.
Sir.
I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, are there any other citizens that wish to speak? My apologies.
No, sir.
Okay. Then can we go to the calendar, please?
Yes, sir. On Wednesday, June 3rd at 5:00 p.m., the Development Authority of St. Mary's in the Main Street office has canceled their meeting. On Thursday, June 4th at 2:00 p.m. in Council Chambers, we have the Tree Board meeting. On Friday, June 5th at 9:00 a.m. in Council Chambers, we have St. Mary's Municipal Court. This afternoon, just before 5, we have the Downtown Development Authority in the Main Street office. They have canceled their meeting for June 8th. On Tuesday, June 9th, in the Main Street office, we have the Stormwater Enterprise Study Working Committee at 6 o'clock. On Thursday, June 11th at 9:30 a.m. in Council Chambers, the Orange Hall Management Committee meeting. At 2 o'clock p.m. on June 11th in Council Chambers, we have a bid opening for the 2020 landscape maintenance contract. At 5 o'clock p.m. this afternoon, Taylor stated that the St. Mary's Intracoastal Gateway has canceled their meeting on Thursday, June 11th at 5 o'clock p.m. in the Main Street office. At 6 o'clock p.m. on June 11th in the Council Chambers, we have the Hospital Authority meeting. And on June 15th, which was a revised time, we now have the 5 o'clock p.m. fiscal year 2021 budget public hearing here in Council Chambers, unless that's revised to teleconference, followed by the 6 o'clock p.m. City Council meeting in Council Chambers.
All right, thank you. Council, if you would like to share your thoughts, and we'll start out with Mr. Jones.
I don't have anything at this time, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Goodman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to follow up on a couple of comments by Mr. Canning. You will note that I did vote no tonight on the Wellington Place. And at the time that that was being discussed, I was having a little bit of an episode and didn't feel like I could make my thoughts cogent. And I've kind of recovered from that. And I will say that it is precisely because of the questions that Mr. Canning raised tonight that need to be answered before we embark upon, contracting with this company. I don't think there's anything to lose by answering all those questions. I understand the vote has already been taken and we're going to proceed, but that's precisely why I voted no. And we need to be very careful in the future about doing all of the homework about exactly what properties are bordering what we call islands, because that is going to make a critical difference. All it's going to take, I'm not going to specify what it's going to take because I don't want to give anybody any ideas. Now, on to another comment. I referenced Mr. Canning's comments again. I give him full credit for this. He had stated eloquently a feeling that I have, and I want to thank and commend the city manager and the staff, Ms. Larson and others who've been involved in the senior center. I think you've done the best you can acting under the conditions, but we have a bigger problem, and it's been a long-standing problem, and that is, does the city of St. Mary's owe a meal to people who will go and not make a financial contribution whatsoever and then post on social media a vacation that they're enjoying that's very pricey? I have feelings about that. I've never partaken of a senior center meal at those locations. I'm qualified from a number of standpoints, but I don't think the city of St. Mary's owes me a meal. Now, I will be the first to pull out of my own pocket money to pay for someone to eat if they're hungry, regardless of their age. But I don't want to see us continue what's happening. The budget has been blown. We understand that there are reimbursements, but it was well on the way to being blown before the entire COVID opportunity, if you will, for reimbursement. And bear in mind, the federal government doesn't give us anything. They reallocate back to us what we've already given them. So having said that, I would like to read and give Mr. Canning full credit for this. This is a statement that he provided in his review, which was a very thorough review of all of the budget items that he spoke about. His comment was, the meal service provided to the senior center members is and was part of the congregate meals program. If there are seniors that require food because of financial constraints, there are local pantries and meal delivery services that are operated by nonprofits and faith-based organizations. If need be, this is the time to get that message across. Continuing to feed 80 plus or minus seniors at home or curbside needs to stop, and I understand that it will be stopping. There are plenty of free food services in our community that are not funded at the taxpayer's expense. That is a very succinctly worded statement, and I support it 100%, and I am so pleased to hear that there's going to be a workshop session in the very near future. And with that, I thank you for the opportunity to make these comments.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. And if at any time, we need to halt the meeting or something, please let me know in the future. Be happy to do that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Gant.
It's really a good feeling I've had on a high mast lighting for exit 1, but I have in my files here an agreement with the state to do that. And it was dated February the 2nd, 2017. Before that agreement was even in anybody's mind, we attended meetings in Atlanta with GDOT, and one of our priorities was lighting exit 1. So my point here is it takes a hell of a long time to get anything done. I'm guessing 1 or 2 years before 2017, we started the discussion at the Atlanta fly-ins that we go to every year. And now we're finally getting the high mast lighting. And we even sold it as a safety item. So the fact that it was a safety item didn't do much to speed up the direction of getting those in there, but it takes a long time to go through the state to get anything, especially Georgia DOT. So just keep that in mind as an example of how long it takes to get something done. That's all I have.
All right, sir. Thank you. Mr. Riley.
Amen to what Jim just said. The hawk signal that the city manager mentioned earlier also started back in 2017 with local meetings over in middle school with the principal and several folks, and it's just now being completed as well. So thanks for making those comments. You made me think of that, Jim. The second comment I got, and I've tried to make it real quick, is the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program grant opportunity begins tomorrow. There'll be the team meeting over at the executive conference room, attending a 4-hour webinar to get all the instructions. We'll take those and do some work on the application that we used last year that was successful. I won't go into what happened with that one. We've already discussed that many times. And the second or third thing is the special thanks to all of our staff and citizens. I've come into City Hall a couple times, and they're being very diligent there, and people are being very patient and understanding, and the social distancing is working, as we can see in the numbers. So thanks to all of the staff and all of the citizens that participate in City Hall. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rassi.
I just want to share with you that I agree with what Mr. Canning put forth, and I think rather than be expounding on everything that was articulated so well by Mr. Goodman and Mr. Canning, that we just need to sit down and have a good meeting to discuss this good work session. I had the pleasure the last couple of Fridays of going over to Camden County Chamber and doing Ravens of Elijah, feeding families, huge family, 55 and older, banana boxes full of food. I mean, fresh produce, you name it. They've got a bunch of awesome stuff they're giving to meet the needs to the seniors in our county. And then we got Meals on Wheels, and we've got other programs here that are really doing exceptionally well, taking care of the seniors in our county. And I think if we have this work session, we'll be able to hopefully better identify what we can do to meet the needs of the seniors in our own community in St. Mary's, and I'm looking forward to that. And the other thing I need to want to share with you, I don't want to get into the details of it, but there's a lot of families that are extremely depressed right now. I have a friend of mine who lost had there's a lot of suicides going on right now, and I have one that hit close to home to me. And it was three murders and a suicide, and it was a family member that of a worker that I work with, and so there's just a lot of anxiety and fear, and just need to reach out to people, check with our neighbors, check with our family and friends, and make sure everybody's doing okay, because it is a very downtrodden time at this time in our country. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you for making sure the reality of the situation is very clear. Thank you, Alan. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Williams.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say that I hate to be the reminder of bad news, but today is the first day of hurricane season. And on top of this COVID-19 virus, we've got to get ready in case we have a hurricane. So everybody look at the list, check the list, and recheck it twice, and get ready, because we could have a hurricane descend upon us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Never far from our vision, I think, for all of us. All right. So thank you very much, Council. For everyone that is on the call, we do have a meeting scheduled for June 15th. We are working very hard to have that as an in-person meeting. I've spoken to a couple of the council people about their feelings about that. Not everyone yet, but so there's some willingness to do that. It will be a rather stilted effort as far as being able to have everyone socially distance, not only the council members, but how many people we can have in the chambers, which may run somewhere between 10 and 14 people. So how do we handle that? Obviously, and then the mechanism for everyone to come in and be safe, social distancing and temperature checks and questions. Masks are all being determined. We did put a caveat in the notice that based on the conditions, and if there's anything that occurs with COVID that it becomes concerning, we may continue with the telephone conferencing in lieu of making this first attempt at having a council meeting. But we are working out the kinks, so if it does not for some reason happen on June 15th, then it would be July 6th. So I appreciate your patience and with our caution here to try and make sure we do it the right way to protect everyone. It's a terrible disease. We are, for everyone, the Executive Policy Group will be meeting shortly in the next few days to go over the school system's anticipation of what it will do for an opening or no opening, and if it's open, what that opening might look like. So I would stay tuned for that over the next week or two. I think some of that information will be distilled out, and so that will start to form up, and you'll have an idea of what a school system year might look like starting in August, September, or not in those times, but at least what a new year might look like. And again, congratulations on the Hawk Beacon and on the fact that the lights are being installed. It is a long and arduous effort to get those to happen. I was actually out looking at the trees in the interchange at exit 1 yesterday, just trying to get an observation of whether or not they were successful with some of the replantings and some of the grassing that they tried to do. It's a little better, but I think we're going to stay close to the state on what that is. And we did see a glimmer of interest in the state in helping us with some longer-term strategic improvements to our infrastructure, particularly our bridges. Can't really go into it yet, but once we get a little feedback from the state, probably before the end of the year, we might be able to talk about a project that will help us in the coming decades, although it is a long ways out. But I will circle back to what Ms. Williams said, and you know, our city manager is indeed our EMA director for these kind of issues, so he's acutely aware. And we've, I think, all looked and heard about how strong the storm season may be this year, so we're going to be abundantly cautious. So with that said, I would like a motion for, since there's no executive session, could I have a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Williams, and a second from?
Mr. Rassi, second.
Mr. Rassi, okay. Going down the roster, yay or nay? Mr. Jones?
Yay.
Mr. Goodman?
Yay, thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Gant?
Yay.
And Mr. Riley?
Yay.
And Mr. Rassi?
Yay.
Ms. Williams?
Yay.
All right. Madam Clerk, that's, please mark that as unanimous. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for attending our June 1st City Council meeting for the City of St. Mary's, Georgia. And have a great evening, and please stay safe. Thank you.